written production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
Maybe we have to. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to get started. It is top of the hour. If you're able, could you please rise and we'll recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Well, welcome to our second town hall for the proposed 2026 annual budget. My name is Tom Foster, and I'm the president of the 2025 Board of Directors. This meeting is being audio and video recorded, and we are also live streaming tonight. Please take out your electronic devices and make sure they're on mute so that we don't have any unnecessary interruptions during the conversations. As a reminder, we don't tolerate any verbal or physical aggression toward any member or guest or RCSC employee, and any offenders may be asked to leave the meetings. Let me introduce the folks at least up front here. Secretary Preston Keiss, Treasurer Anita Borski. Our presenters tonight are Linda McIntyre, to my immediate left, and then next to her is Kim Wanick, both of whom are on the Finance, Budget, and Audit Committee. And sitting at the end of the table is Mike Diermeyer, who is Director of Operations, and he'll be watching the computer for live stream participants. Okay. Perhaps we should introduce our new general manager. I was just looking to see whether she wanted to be recognized, but too bad. I decided for you. So on day 2 of her employment with the RCSC, this is Rebecca Hill, who is our new general manager. We thought it was incredibly encouraging that she came back for day 2. All right, so Kim and Linda, it's your show to go ahead and take off with your presentation, and then we'll work into the questions from the audience when you're completed.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Good evening, everybody. As Tom said, I'm Linda McIntyre, and co-presenting with me tonight is Kim Wanick. And in addition to our role on the Budget and Finance Committee, Kim and I are also members of the 5-year planning team, which is made up of members of the Budget Finance Committee, the Long Range Planning Committee, and a member of the Clubs Committee, or the Committee on Clubs, and which was a new addition this year. I also want to thank Alan over to my right and Miguel Jackson up in the booth, who's helping us with our audio-visual tonight. So let's get started with our agenda tonight. And I'm going to preface some remarks first about the role of the Budget and Finance Committee, just as a little background. The oversight responsibility of our committee is limited to the operating income and expenses, which we obtain from a wide variety of income, and we'll show you that later. And there's a lot of expense that goes into our operations. And the capital budget. And our capital budget is made up of income from the capital improvement fee, which is accumulated from the assessment. A capital improvement fee is paid by new buyers. And a portion of the assessment, lot assessment, is also contributed to the capital improvement fund. We'll have more on that later when we get into the capital budget. The PIF fees that are paid by new buyers, the property improvement fee, are part of the RCSC expenditures for large projects, projects over $300,000. Those are under the purview of the Long Range Planning Committee. And our committee collaborates with Long Range Planning through the 5-year planning team. However, tonight's presentation is just focusing on the operating budget and capital expenditures, which comes under our committee. So we're not talking about PIF and large projects like Mountain View and other big projects tonight. So we're going to go through the budget as we have up on the screen, and we're going to talk about it in different bullet points tonight. Last year, as you all know, it was quite controversial. We had a large increase in the property assessment. It was the largest one probably ever. So Kim is going to, in 2025, Kim is going to talk about operating expenses. I will talk about the capital expenses that we had. Then we're going to go into the operating budget for 2026. That's what you're all here, you're most curious about, we're sure. Bullet 3, we'll talk about your money at work in 2026. We'll explain some of the differences that will be impacted in 2026 and include some of the new initiatives, programming changes that we really think are going to be proactive and that you'll find add more value to what we're calling the Sun City lifestyle. Bullet 4, Kim and I will share some of the challenges that we are facing. These are topics that our committee, as well as the 5-year team, has discussed and debated at length. The board and senior management are facing these challenges, and you as members need to hear from us and to be aware of. We're not hiding from these challenges. We are trying to find solutions. They come with big price tags, and we need to find ways to solve them. We feel it's important, as we're talking about this tonight, that we all keep in mind the scope of the RCSC in terms of the human and financial resources that it takes to manage this very large organization. We have 8 centers, 8 golf courses with snack shops. We lease out the 2 George's cafes at the bowling alleys. We have Viewpoint Lake and the surrounding park setting that provides numerous recreational opportunities. Viewpoint Lake happens to be my personal happy place. It's a place I like to go just to sit and enjoy the scenery and the wildlife. We have 120 plus clubs, all types of opportunities for people for their creative outlets. We have a theater, multiple recreational venues, tennis, lawn bowling, pickleball, mini golf, a dog park, softball field, the sun ball, all of the free entertainment that we can participate in. All of the accessory buildings, the buildings at the golf courses that need to be maintained, the parking lots, and all the acres of the surrounding landscaping that need to be maintained. It's an incredible amount of facilities that we are responsible for. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kim, and she's going to launch into the first part of our budget.
Linda, thank you very much, and thank you for joining us here at Sundial as well as live streaming with us. Before I dive into the 2025 items that we received from our assessment this current year, we wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about where does our money come from. And it's very important that we think about these 3 buckets as members, as well as how RCSC views them. So let's move left to right here on this screen. The first one is the annual fees. Think of that as our annual assessment. You'll see here in the green, think of this as a checking account. What does that checking account fund? It funds our operating expenses. This is where I'll focus our conversation tonight. Linda will be talking about the next bucket, the capital improvement fees. Think of the operating expenses as wages. We have 488 team members at RCSC. We also have repairs that are ongoing. We also have utilities that we're paying for. Let's move then to the one-time fee, which happens when a new member or an existing member may purchase a new home. These fees occur when a home is purchased. We have the capital improvement fee, which is today $1,500. That goes to fund all of our non-PIF projects. Those projects that range in price tag from $5,000 up to $300,000 in value. And Linda's going to give you a little bit more detail later in our presentation as to what some of those items are. And then lastly, on the far right side is the Preservation and Improvement Fee, or PIF. This is going to be the fee that pays for anything $300,000 and above with a life of 15 years or more. So Linda alluded to Mountain View. Think of those large expenditures that we have. So if we try to personalize this in our own home, think about that annual assessment of our food purchases, insurance, as well as our housekeeping supplies. If we then think about our capital fund from a personal perspective, think about that air conditioning repair or replacing tires on your car. And then think of that PIF fund as maybe you're getting ready to do a kitchen remodel, a patio build out, a bathroom remodel. I want to spend a second on this blue arrow that you see that feeds from the annual assessment fee into capital. Over the past couple of years, the committee worked with the RCSC finance team and identified we really needed to improve our spend on our capital projects. We basically doubled that. We needed to go ahead and replenish some of those funds, and so the means of which we're doing is 4% of the annual assessment fee that is being paid is actually being allocated to the capital fund. Again, that capital fund, anything that has a price tag between $5,000 and $300,000. As Linda alluded to earlier, the preservation and improvement area is really handled by the Long Range Planning Committee. So for purposes of our presentation today, we are going to be focusing on these two buckets on our left. The annual assessment, I'll be covering the operating expenses, and then the second portion that goes into our annual budget is the capital improvement fee, and Linda will be handling that portion of the presentation. So if we think in terms of where do our operating funds and where do our expenses go, we thought we'd give a quick visual of a piggy bank. So let's think about what feeds our piggy bank. We have everything from annual assessments to privilege card fees. These are renters, typically people that maybe come down for a month or two. We have transfer fees that occur when a home is purchased, guest fees when you are introducing your guest to pool, golf, any of our amenities that we have. Also golf fees, bowling fees, event ticket sales, and food and beverage sales. So pretty much anything that we may be doing on a daily basis is funding this piggy bank. Now, if we take a look at our top two items of what is coming in, the assessments, which are just shy of $16 million, and golf, which is about $9.4 million. So those are our two largest funnels coming in to our account. On the outflow side, what comes in must go out. If we have 488 team members, 64% of those are part-time, we obviously have wages and benefits that we need to go ahead and pay. We also have various things such as pool maintenance, equipment and furniture. You've seen some upgrades in these areas. Utility cost, we've seen some upgrade in our information technology, so investing in our data lines and internet services. Chemicals, fertilizer, and seed to keep our golf courses playable. Janitorial supplies to keep our rec centers and other venues in working order, as well as finally insurance as well. So we talked about the large inflow of funds. The largest outflow is going to be the employee wages and benefits. And if you think about this, our annual assessment doesn't even cover the entire amount of our wages and benefits. So wages and benefits for 2025 are just shy of $17 million. And earlier I talked about our annual assessments of about 15.8, just to kind of give you an idea there. So talking through a little further, where are our top spends from an operating expense side? Again, this is that annual assessment at work for all of our members. One of the areas that was a little shocking to me when I moved to Arizona and all of us relocated from somewhere else was the minimum wage here in Arizona. For 2025, the minimum wage is $14.70. There's 5 states in the Midwest that are $7.25, and various other states that are in between those. If you're a member from Canada, your provinces are anywhere between $11 and $16 an hour, and then there's also the exchange rate that is at play. So this year we had a 2.4% increase in wages, going from $14.35 again up to the $14.70. One of the focuses of the committee over the last couple of years was how were we going to focus on stemming the turnover that was occurring? We were doing a great job of hiring people, training people, and then watching them leave because they could go ahead and achieve a higher wage down the road. So we were experiencing a turnover at about a 40% annual rate. Through those efforts of improving the marketplace wage, we've been able to decrease that to 24%. And we're a seasonal community, so that 24% is pretty much in line with an organization like ours. General operating expenses, some of our top spends in these areas are seed, chemicals and pesticides, credit card fees, fertilizer, gas and diesel fuel, and equipment. If we then shift to repairs and maintenance, the top spends that we're seeing for this year are building repairs, software maintenance as we upgrade our information technology, rolling stock parts. What's rolling stock, you ask, because I had to ask that question. Rolling stock are those vehicles that have wheels and other items that are not deemed licensable or being able to be driven on the road. Think of a mower on a golf course. Think of a cart, not a golf cart, but a utility cart on a golf course. That's a rolling stock, and we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. Preventative maintenance, pool and spa chemicals, and building hardware. Lastly, our next spend is utilities and sewers. Much like each of us have seen in our own personal homes, our top 3 spends are water and sewer, electric, and gas from a utility perspective. Linda, at this point, I'd like to turn it over to you to talk about the capital projects.
Okay. Before I really get into the capital projects, you note on the heading it says Capital Projects Reserve Study. I think I need to do a sort of a quick explanation about what a reserve study is. As Finance Director McCurdy often says, and has explained to us numerous times, it's a living, breathing document that requires constant monitoring and updating. But what does that even mean? I describe it as a comprehensive asset management program and requires serious due diligence. We were introduced to the reserve study during the late 2023, early 2024, when discussions took place that we'd had a reserve study, but the last time it was completed or brought up to date and really effective was in 2018. This is when a new project was undertaken that resulted in a very proactive approach to get a handle on our maintenance and equipment needs. This plan doesn't help us just budget in the short term, but it helps us forecast for the long term. It helps us keep a focus on our needs for equipment, our building upgrades, our ongoing maintenance, our daily maintenance. It's also when the SIF plan was born. We needed to have a sustainable and adequate capital operating fund. It was obvious we weren't going to survive on our current financing plan. What does it include? The reserve study includes every piece of equipment, date of purchase, its price, its expected life expectancy, its estimated future replacement cost. Similarly, costs and details of every project that we do. Same type of details are included in the reserve study. If equipment is taken out of service, it's eliminated. The same with if we tore down a building. The reserve study is under constant and continuous review and update. It's like that breathing document. And we now have an employee that does analysis, review, updating, and forecasting as part of the finance department. So back to what happened in 2025. The 2025 budget was just over $5.7 million, as itemized up here in this slide. As of today, these projects are still in various stages of completion with the expectation that the majority will be completed by the end of the year. You'll notice the big ticket items. We have a lot of HVAC, as you can imagine, in 8 buildings. We have a lot of parking lots with these 8 buildings, and the softball diamond, and the Sun Bowl. We have golf equipment is another large expenditure. We have golf equipment, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in the next, in 2026, but we have golf equipment that is way outused its useful life. Some of it is 14 and 15 years old. Pool decking and equipment. With the number of pools that we have and the heat in Arizona, pool decking doesn't hold up as long as we'd like it to be sustained. In 2025, we had replacement of games, no, that's the fairway lawn bowling. And as I understand it, that's still in limbo because of problems getting materials. And I do need to note that just because something is on the reserve study and maybe should be replaced in 2028, if the facilities teams determines that, no, we can still, that equipment is still viable and we can get a couple more years out of it. As Kevin always says, we're really good about wringing a couple more years of life out of a piece of equipment. Those are his words. That piece of equipment could be moved out another couple of years. But in the same scenario, something that could be on the reserve schedule for 2029 suddenly dies next month, and all of a sudden, we have a piece of equipment that costs $150,000. Now we have to do a dance, or also known as the ballet, and find money in current operational money or current capital in the current capital budget and figure out how we're going to replace that equipment. So that was the money from the reserve study for 2025. Then we had the capital, I'm tongue-tied, the 2025 club projects, and these are itemized. The top one was the coolers, the swamp cooler upgrades at the vintage clubs. This was a special allocation for the ongoing problems at the coolers at the vintage vehicles at the Grand Center. So this was, and this is still ongoing. I'm not sure when this is going to get accomplished, but it's still on the capital projects list. Otherwise, these are also all under in various stages of completion for this year. And I don't know what the total the completion timeline is for these, but I think from talking to Steve Collins and Anita, who have been involved in the clubs, they're in fairly good shape. Am I right, Anita, for this year? Okay, good. In 2025, the clubs were allocated 5% of the capital budget for their projects instead of, in the past, they were sort of just winging it for clubs. Clubs just sort of got an allocation if there were funds available. The COC, Committee on Clubs, also had a representative on the 5-year planning team. They hadn't had a representative in the past. Also, as part of BP 16, clubs now provide a list of projects for review for their budget to the club's office. That list then goes to the facilities committee, or the facilities department. Facilities then creates a budget and gets pricing. Then it goes back to the committee on clubs. They prioritize that list, create their priority project list, and then it comes to the Budget and Finance Committee for inclusion in the new now 2026 and 2025 budget. That was a brand new policy that came out of Board Policy 16. So the actual budget was $289,400 plus that additional board approved $200,000 for 2025. So that's kind of what happened with your money in 2025. So now, what everybody's waiting for, curtain rises on 2026. So I'm going to let Kim take over.
Okay, thank you. And again, we just transitioned from 2025, which is still underway, obviously. So here's the plan for 2026. So we, as a Budget Finance Committee, have been working very diligently with our finance team members at RCSC, and we'll talk about the next steps that will be taking place with the approval of that. But let's just revisit this piggy bank real quick. We're not going to go through every single item. There's no changes to what feeds the piggy bank or what comes out of the piggy bank. Of note, on the revenue side, again, our largest two items are going to be annual assessments, which are about $16.7 million budgeted, and then golf, which is about $9.3 million budgeted. Again, on the outgoing fund side, it's the wages and benefits, right? And that's estimated to be about $17.2 million for this current year. We're going to go ahead and send about $670,000 from the annual assessment over to the capital side, like we talked about before, so that we can make sure that we've got the funding stream in place to manage those items that are between that $5,000 and $300,000 spent. Pardon me. So let's get into the revenue assumptions. This is the key point why people are here and live streaming. The annual assessment today for 2025 is $650. Through our work this year and through the various analysis items, the proposal that has been made to the board is to increase that by $30 to $680 for 2026. That's an increase of approximately 8 cents a day, or if we break it down from a daily perspective of utilization, 2025 rate is $1.78 per day. 2026 rate is $1.87 on a daily basis for that annual assessment. Walking through some of these other areas, the privilege card per board policy, as the annual assessment increases, the privilege card incrementally increases automatically. So that's going to increase from 325 to 340. This year we have a new item, new increase, and that's on the transfer fee. That is when a new home is purchased. Since 1987, that fee had been at $300. If we normalize that $300 into $2025, that would actually be a rate of $800. We collectively made the decision to go ahead and increase that by $200 to a total of $500. Again, that is when someone is purchasing a new home. On the golf side, the Golf Pass non-resident no cart, there's no change on this. That remains at $3,500. On the Golf Pass resident no fee, there's a $300 increase for 2026, shifting from $2,500 to $2,800. On the Golf Pass resident surcharge, a shift of $100, moving up from $1,200 to $1,300. The greens fees public stays the same at $61. The greens fees guest increases from $53 to $55. Green fees card holder increases by $2 from $41 to $43. Shifting now to bowling, Open bowling game for a resident is going to increase from $2.90 to $3. Open bowling game non-resident will also increase from $3.75 to $4. You'll see there's no change on the events or the show ticket. That's going to remain the same at $25. So again, this is the work that we've been doing this past year. If we take a look at the roll-up of the master budget, we have, I don't know how many line items that exist in the budget, and Kevin, I'm not going to ask you that number, it's a lot. So instead of going through those various items, this is the actual roll-up that has come from the committee. So the budget for 2025 that we're, whoops, I need to remember which one bear with me here. Let's do the laser pointer. The operating income for 2025 budget is just over $29 million. Our budget coming into 2026 is just over 30. On the cost of sales, this is, think of items as such as food, merchandise, beverages, golf merchandise, I said, shows and entertainment, and snacks. So that's our gross profit that we're looking at. So a variance of 3.9% for 2026. Then we've already gone through some of the items that make up our cost areas: wages and benefits, repairs and maintenance, utilities, and we'll talk about how some of those shifted in our estimates here for 2026. So if we look at our expense side of the equation, about a 4.7% increase, shifting from 26.4 to 27.7. Cannot get this thing. Net operating excess, you see here, just slightly decreased by 7% from 1988 down to 1854. If we want to take that one step further, we can look at the various cost centers that have been defined within RCSC. And I'll move left to right on this slide. Facilities, managed by Mike Whiprud. Think of the project management and the grounds management. We then have finance, Kevin McCurdy, which covers accounting, cardholder services, human resources, information technology, safety, and purchasing. Operations led by Mike Diermeyer to my left, centers, bowling, events, and communications. You're going to be real happy to get that hat back, aren't you? Then we have golf, which is now with Eddie Renio. I think I got your last name right there, Eddie, who's new to RCSC. Again, this is going to be one of our large spends as well as operations. And then we have food and beverages broken out. So I wanted to spend a couple of seconds here on our top two cost centers, and I don't think this should be surprising to any of us. Operations, which is our rec centers, our facility attendants, our janitors, and then we have golf. One of the conversation topics we had yesterday is, where is golf from a sustainability perspective? The fees for golf that we just visited, everything from the various passes to where we are on the operating expense side, is projected to come in even for 2026. Now, there's some caveats with that, right? Weather. Certainly going to always be a factor for us, whether it's cold, heat, rain. Did I get that right, guys? Yes. Okay, thank you. I was tasked with doing some homework on that one. So you can see for each of these cost centers, the wages that are associated with this. You can see the repairs and maintenance. You can see the utility costs and the general operating expenses. On the income stream, you can see where the operating income is coming from that as well. Of note, you'll see this same pie chart that we talked through before. Our minimum wage is going up from $14.70 to $15.15 this year. That's an increase of about 3%. There was some reduction in headcount in this budget for 2026. On the general operating expenses, again, seed, fertilizer, chemicals, and pesticides to maintain playability of our golf courses, credit card fees, gas and diesel fuel, and equipment. Under repairs and maintenance, our top spend projected for 2026 is software maintenance. You've seen we've undergone a significant amount of increase in our information technology to bring us into today's environment. Those costs will probably remain the same as we have now more software that we have been purchasing over time. That's followed by building repair services, rolling stock parts, those non-golf carts that you're going to see on golf courses and mowers, preventive maintenance, pool and spa chemicals. And then again, utilities, we have water and sewer, electric and gas. We wanted to share this visual with our members from a couple of different perspectives. On the 2026 assessment fee, we know last year there was a significant increase. What we see on the left-hand portion of this slide is over time, what has the inflation rate done and where have the annual assessment fees been commensurate with that? You can see this flat line here with our annual assessment, but what was the inflation rate doing? It was not staying flat. It was increasing. We had to come to a point where we were much closer. Last year was a very difficult decision that was made. This year, not as significant as last year, but yes, there is an increase. So we can see that we are at the inflation level. Let's think from a cumulative perspective, or the right-hand portion of this slide. Again, we had these numbers of years where we did not see an increase over time. You can see this disparity between these two lines. The line on the left, the green, is the inflation rate. The line below that is what we actually took in. And so that is about an $8 million deficit that we are off through that period of time. That does not count any investment income that could have come in with that. That's an important item to remember because we're going to be talking in a few moments about some of the challenges that we are facing. And boy, we really wish we had some of that money, but we don't. So we're going to discuss what some of those challenges are that we are undertaking as a committee. So 2026, what are you going to see? Events. Let's talk about events real quick from a free and ticketed entertainment. For 2025, there were 60 events planned, which was an increase of 9 from 2024. We're actually planning on increasing that to 68 for 2026. Think of the Sun Bowl, think of the events that happen here at Sundial, especially for those of us that are year-rounders and ongoing. We had not budgeted for all of those in 2025. We've made a concerted effort to account for all of those in 2026. On golf, again, we've talked about the seed, the chemicals, the pesticides. It's improving the course playability at each of our courses. So an investment in those areas. Rebranding grills and merchandise. If you've not received, or if you've not seen or received the email today, Eddie is starring in Around with Eddie. Eddie's going to be talking on a variety of different topics that is golf focused. Especially, it's a great opportunity to educate our members that are not golfers, that may not see these items because we don't play golf or live on a golf course. So you'll hear from Eddie about moving the snack shop title from a snack shop to a grill, and talk about rebranding a merchandise so that we actually have logoed items for each individual golf course. And so those are a number of initiatives that are currently underway. Information technology. Of course, there's going to be some ongoing fiber and network upgrades. And then lastly, we have some upgrades that will continue with our safety and security. So Linda, at this point, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about the capital project side, or that other bucket that comes into our annual budget.
The other bucket, yes. The things that we sometimes can touch and feel and see. Capital budget is made up of SIF dollars, as we talked about a little bit in 25, and in 2026, there's a 4% contribution from our annual assessments that also goes into the capital budget, which is up from 3% in 2025. The reminder, again, the capital expenditures are for those items costing $5,000 up to $300,000 and come from fees that new buyers pay. And that SIF fee was implemented in early 2024. This slide represents the capital spending for next year and is broken into several relevant categories. The biggest category is from the reserve study, including just over $4 million. And these were all recommended by the facilities department. And I'll go into a little more detail on that in a couple of minutes. Let's talk about this one. The new capital items, the $758,000 that's recommended, these were also recommended by the facilities department, but they're not on the reserve study. And these things include things like equipment hatches. These are openings in the top of our buildings. These have been discovered, they need to be replaced and upgraded, and these are compliance and safety issues. These are at a cost of like $250,000. We have HVAC issues. We have a water pipe project at Bell of $225,000. We have a fence wall issue repair at Quail Run that's $100,000. We have additional piping reline at the west side of this building for $100,000. I think there was earlier this year sewer pit project here at Sundial, and that's ongoing for $50,000. And then there were other various projects for another $33,000. The capital expenditure for golf equipment is $1 million. This includes golf equipment at $800,000, which is another big ticket item. And I need to do a little explanation about golf. In 2010, a decision was made to stop leasing golf equipment. Years ago, they used to lease equipment. And we went to an outright purchase. Kim talked earlier about rolling stock. The cost of repairing and maintaining some of our equipment that is 14 and 15 years old is incredibly expensive. And we're spending precious human and financial capital on these repairs. Some of this equipment, you can't find repair or parts for 14 and 15-year-old equipment at this point, or if it is, it's very expensive. We have mowers that are 14 and 15 years old. We have utility vehicles that are 15 years old. We have pull-behind vehicles that are 15 years old. So this is requiring another fairly significant outlay of capital for golf. But if we were to maintain our golf courses and keep these golf courses up to date and keep our employees working on maintaining golf courses and not maintaining equipment, the capital expenditure is required to keep us moving forward. $200,000 of that is allocated to wells and pumps maintenance and upgrades. Club allocations for the coming year, there's another slide on that. I think I have another slide on that. And then we have the regular routine repairs and maintenance for $182,865. So the capital budget project is another $6,173,000 total for the year. So if we want to go back to the, let's see, I get mixed up on this one. Did we get that one on the roofing? We got all those. Okay. All right, moving on. The roof, the capital project reserve. Yeah, this one. Okay, sorry. As you can see, these are the major projects that we'll be doing on the reserve study projects. The biggest one is roofing. We have 8 roofing projects. They break down for the largest one of these is $822,000 at the bowling alley at Lakeview. Other roofing projects include the craft building at Bell, fitness at Bell, the lower level offices at Lakeview, the pro shops and the cart barn at Willow Creek. We have pool and spa resurfacing and decking equipment of over $700,000. Just Bell and Sundial alone are $360,000. In Arizona, we have problems with pool decking, of course, with the extreme heat, but facilities also tells us that there's problems with the products that we're able to purchase and the product breakdown. This isn't just Sun City that's having problems with pool decking. This is an issue with the industry that's putting out the products, from what we understand. Fitness equipment at Sundial is another $412,000. So as you can see down the line, HVAC is a huge expenditure, keeping these buildings cool, and sometimes we actually even need heat. But if we don't have cooling in these buildings when it's 110 degrees. Vehicle replacement, we've done a pretty good job in the last couple of years in getting our fleet vehicles up to date, but we were also running vehicles that were 10, 12, 15 years old. So we have shade structures, 2 shade structures. One of the shade structures at Bell is $150,000 alone. These are also very spendy. Paving and painting, we've done quite a few parking lot paving projects. But there's always paving and painting, and then we just have the other miscellaneous equipment, IT, and signage. So this part of it alone from the reserve study is over $4 million. So that's the largest part of the capital. The club projects for this year, the club project process is the same as it was in 2025. Club project allocation this year is just over $200,000, $223,300, and the club projects are itemized in this handout. So you all have a copy of that. So I think this is self-explanatory. There's nothing too outstanding or too unusual here. Clubs could always want more and do more, but at least the clubs now have an annual allocation dedicated specifically to them. So, challenges. These are the tough ones. What's not included in this budget? The 5-year planning team and Budget and Finance Committee have had many discussions about the challenges facing the RCSC in the near future and the long term. We've covered a lot in tonight's presentation, but we would be remiss if we don't talk about the numerous financial challenges that are not included but still need serious consideration. I'll start this one off. That we've made no decisions to increase prices for privilege cards or guest passes. There's still pending policy and bylaw changes that may affect the terms of use, but any any increases are a budget item. And we debated these, but we've decided that we'll hold off and see what's happening, and I'm sure this is still going to come back to Budget and Finance. The board can ultimately make the decision on these. Kim mentioned that the privilege card for full-time renters goes up with the assessment. But part-time, if you get a monthly privilege card, those are $75. And the guest passes are still at $250, and they have not had an increase for many years. So that's still out there.
So let's talk about the PIF and SIF fees. We've elected not to make a recommendation this year to increase those. Just for your benefit, the Preservation and Improvement Fund fee or PIF fee is $4,000. The Capital Improvement Fee or SIF is $1,500. And just to revisit that real quick, the SIF handles everything in dollar value from $5,000 to $300,000. PIF, which is Long Range Planning Committee, is going to be $300,000 and a life of 15 years or more. So for 2026, we elected to not change those fees.
Okay, the master plan. There's a lot of discussion about the master plan. Debated in the community, debated by different people, debated within our committees. The board has had numerous interviews with various consultants about a master plan. And as you can see from this slide, the price tag is steep. There's a lot of challenges facing Sun City, not just Sun City, but many retirement communities, but communities in general. We have rising water issues. We have rising costs across the entire organization. We have multi-generational shifts. There's a lot of things that are facing us, and a master plan is essential to our future. But paying for this project has a high price tag, and we're going to have to come to terms with, if we're going to do this, how we're going to pay for it, and where's it going to come from.
One of our other large ticket items that we have been talking about is the back office infrastructure upgrade. Think again, information technology, if you will. We essentially are outgrowing the service capabilities of the vendor that is our business partner in this arena. So it's causing us to seek other options, other alternatives, which will also increase that dollar value. Current projections are around $1 million or more to go ahead and upgrade that. It will improve the efficiency of our operations. It will provide us the opportunity to better analyze our data, and will provide members a better touch and feel with our information technology.
Marquee signs. The marquee signs that are at all the centers and at the Sun Bowl that announce meetings and events and so forth. Those signs have required for the last year or more that staff is constantly trying to fix them, get announcements out. They're basically broken and are not repairable. The technology is outdated. Are they important enough to the members that they're replaced? Do they provide a value to the community? The price tag for these are also steep. $750,000 is the estimate that's been given. If they're not replaced, the monument or the base stays, but what takes its place that's attractive, that we can do something that identifies each center? Is that satisfactory, or do we spend the money and we still have electronic signs? That's the issue that's facing us.
Lastly, as we talked about earlier, the clubs. Every club has the opportunity to submit their wants and needs on an annualized basis to the club's office. We talked through what is being done in 2025. We've talked through what is planned for 2026. Obviously, we can't do everything. But if we isolate what some of these bigger, larger ticket items are, we thought it was important to share with you as well, as we know many of our members are members of a variety of clubs. So a number of clubs have requests for additional space. We have a request for resurfacing outdoor shuffleboard. You can see there's a projected cost of $150K there. A request for LED lighting at outdoor lawn bowls. That's about $160,000. Couple of requests for ventilation upgrades at a couple of clubs. That's $175,000 each for each ventilation system. And then lastly, another large ticket item is a flooring upgrade at the Sundial Silverstones, which has been projected at $100,000. So I go back to that bar graph earlier when you heard me say, what is that disparity between where we were with an inflation and where we were with our assessments? And we're off by $8 million. Wouldn't it be nice to have that kettle of $8 million to be able to tackle some of these items? There's another way that those could be achieved, and there's really two options that we are tasked with as members as well and on your behalf at this committee level, and that is, do we shift another primary project off the table to go ahead and achieve one of these items? Those are the discussions and the conversations that are held at a committee level along with our RCSC business partners. The other option that can be at play with that, which is not something we really wanted to go ahead and do, let's say for an example, we've already talked about what the assessment is projected for, or the assessment is for 2026, which is $680. There's a means to achieve another $500,000. That is by adding to that 680. So if we did another 500,000 increase, that equates to about another $20 on top of that. We've elected to leave that 680 alone, but we felt it was very important for our members to understand what are a number of these items that we are tasked with in taking a look at, and what are the associated costs with each of those. So we wanted to take this opportunity to educate the members on these particular items. So let's go ahead and shift now to an area that I know, Linda, you're very passionate about. We have members that we know are below the poverty line, and we know we have a vehicle that one of their items is able to go ahead and assist with the annual assessment. Can you take a few minutes and talk about the Sun City Foundation?
Sure. And for full disclosure, I'm also treasurer of the Sun City Foundation Board, so just so everybody knows. So why is the Sun City Foundation included, and why is it important? There's several reasons why this plays into the budget. Just a little bit of background and context. The foundation was established in 1986, and the founders established it exclusively to carry out the charitable and educational purposes of the RCSC. Yes, 40 years ago, we had a foundation. And many members still don't realize that one exists, and exclusively as an arm of the RCSC. And it's important to know, and I'm going to just touch on the Articles of Incorporation about what it says about its purpose, and I'm just going to paraphrase. Promote the well-being and common good of the members, promote and encourage growth of programs which maintain and support the unique Sun City lifestyle provided by the rec center facilities, foster and support other activities of the RCSC which further cultural, educational, and other life enrichment programs of the member residents of Sun City. Operate as a nonprofit corporation under the laws of Arizona and the tax code of our 501c3 tax code of the IRS. And there's another section, the 509A3, which classifies it as a supporting organization of the RCSC, which means our assets and resources can only support the rec centers. We can't make charitable contributions to any other organization in Sun City. So bullet 2 that Kim referred to is our signature program, and we're now calling that the Neighbors Helping Neighbors program, and many of you may be familiar with it because it's the one we've always talked about. It's the one where we help residents who've outlived their resources pay their annual assessments. There's guidelines for that. They have to meet an age requirement. They have to be property owner. There's a residency requirement of they have to be a member in good standing for 3 years. The home is their sole resident. Their assessment can't be more than 60 days past due, and their income must exceed more than, or doesn't exceed more than 150% of the current federal poverty level. Their application is submitted, it's reviewed internally by committee members on the board. They have a personal interview, eligibility is determined, their assessment is either going to be granted or denied, and then their assessment is paid directly to the RCSC. It's not paid to the member. Why does this matter? So far this year, we've helped 94 residents with their assessment, which is up dramatically from last year and any previous year. These payments don't just support the bottom line of the RCSC, which is very important. But remember what I said about the articles. By keeping members active and socially engaged, it promotes the well-being of the member and helps them enjoy the unique Sun City lifestyle. When I started with referencing the articles, or the foundation's articles, it was intended to explain that there are many opportunities to promote and encourage the growth and programs which maintain and support this great community. For example, we can write grants and receive money and funds from other foundations and gifts that can also provide resources for recreation, the arts, education, and other cultural activities that would not just have a significant impact on the finances of the RCSC, but these can also potentially manage member costs, assessments, and also provide more value by offering enhanced programming, help keep our facilities and equipment up to date, and in the long run may have the potential to keep impact fees stable for future buyers. So the future impact of a foundation can have a substantial impact on the RCSC. Foundations build endowment funds, just like hospitals and universities. It's like our reserve fund. It's for the future. So would you be surprised to learn that it was either in the late 70s, I forget the exact date, or in the early 80s, the foundation board, the Sun City Foundation Board, hired a consultant to do a feasibility study to determine if $5 million could be raised to build a PAC. Yeah, a theater. And the findings were yes, it was possible. Sadly, that didn't move forward. But what could have been? So like the slide earlier in the presentation that showed what happened by years of us not raising our assessments and not keeping up with inflation, that scenario could be applied to the foundation. It's no secret, it's a lot of work for volunteers to do the work in fundraising and foundation management. I come from that life. I did that for 7.5 years in my previous life. So we can't go back, but we can look forward to the future. A foundation is an incredibly valuable asset to a community. Just like the RCSC, the money comes in, the money goes out. Last December, the RCSC hosted a terrific holiday event with proceeds that went to the foundation. It was an incredible boost for us to help the residents that we've helped this year. We received a generous grant from Desert Diamond Casino that was a huge boost to us. It was over $17,000. We had several large donations from clubs and individuals this year. It was another huge boost to us. Plus, we had some better than anticipated investment returns. So we've been able to keep our assets pretty stable this year, but we know that the end of the year is coming, and we know with what's happening with inflation and costs that we're going to see more residents that are going to need our help. So how can you help? Donations can be made directly to the Sun City Foundation, personal or clubs. Clubs that make a donation to us don't have to make the match to the RCSC, but as I say that, remember that everything that comes into us actually goes back to them. It's all the circle. We are all a community. It's kind of like a community foundation, although it's not a community foundation, but we are the charitable arm of the RCSC. You can participate in fundraising events sponsored by either the RCSC or the Sun City Foundation, golf or bowling tournaments, the great Christmas event that's sponsored here by the events department, duck races, the golf cart parade. When Maureen dressed up last year as a duck and led the chicken dance, I mean, who can have more fun than that? Everything the foundation does will benefit the RC members in the long run. The Sun City lifestyle is one that we all love. That's why we're all here, I think. Anyway, It's, the foundation assets are controlled by the foundation board of directors. They make the decisions about how the assets are spent and invested. So finally, individual donations are tax deductible. Always consult your tax advisor about, any large investments. The only kind of gift that isn't transferable to us is an RMD rollover. Other than that, we can accept just about anything. So thank you for your patience in letting me indulge. But the foundation is a very important asset that I think has tremendous rewards for the rec centers of Sun City. And the founders that did that had a brilliant idea, and I think we need to make sure that we move it forward.
Linda, thank you. So in summary, what have we discussed here today? We've talked through what your money has done for us in 2025. As we talked about, we have two buckets that we are managing as part of the annual budget process. We have the operating expenses and the capital improvements. We detailed a lot of that information as far as incoming funds, outgoing funds, and then the items that you can see and touch and feel from a capital improvements perspective. We also have reviewed with you the proposed 2026 operating budget, with the annual assessment increasing by $30, up from $650 in 2025 to $680 in 2026. We talked through some of the challenges that we as a committee are facing on behalf of our membership and with RCSC. And just as a reminder, this budget that we have worked through today supports our 8 rec centers, our 8 golf courses, our 120-plus clubs, softball field, dog park, lake, and free entertainment. So where are we in the budget approval process? The Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee has made the recommendation to pass this budget onto the board for approval. The first reading will go ahead and occur later this month on October 30th. The second reading will occur later in November on November 20th. Lastly, some of the other areas that the committee has been working on and will be coming soon is a Finance 101, or an abbreviated version of what goes into our budget process. We're working to fine-tune that, and again, that's coming soon. That will be followed then by small workshops that any member can go ahead and attend, and a member of our Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee will be leading those small workshops to do a deeper dive into some of these areas that impact the budget. And again, a last plug for Around with Eddie. If you've not seen that video, that was released today. So at this point, we want to open the floor to questions. As I stated earlier, we also have members who are live streaming with us. So if there's a question, we'll take 2 from the floor, then we'll switch to a live streamed question. If you would like to ask a question, we kindly ask that you share your name and your RCSC number with us. So I'll open it to the floor.
Tad Daughters, 117436. I have a question as to what the source of capital expenditures is if it is over 300,000 and less than a 15-year lifespan.
Well, what you've defined is something that does not qualify as a PIF expenditure.
Exactly.
So it has to come from SIF. There's no other bucket for the money to come from. So
it can go over 300,000.
It could go over 300,000, but it's a pretty rare instance when that happens. But theoretically, yes, it could.
That would be an example of the monument signs. There's 750,000, but they won't last 15 years. So they kind of fall in that hole.
Fall in the whole of capital.
Dennis Stokely, 156632. I have 2 issues, and since you just mentioned the monument signs, that was going to be my second, but I'll do it first. I'm very concerned. They started failing a year ago, and in my opinion, we should have fixed them then. But now we're saying we're not even going to fix them in 2026. We'll look at 2027, and maybe not even then. And I'm really concerned about that because a lot of the other things we're doing, okay, fixing things on the golf course are noticeable to golfers, fixing the pool are noticeable to people to the pool, fixing the fitness center, upgrading fitness centers, noticeable to people in the fitness center. Those signs are noticeable to everybody who drives through Sun City, not just Sun City residents, but our neighbors, and most importantly, people who are here looking to buy. And what we're saying by just letting them sit not functioning and maybe not replacing them is we don't have enough self-respect to keep our center functioning. I think that's the wrong approach. I think we need to find a way to fix those signs, and I'd like to see it sooner rather than later. And maybe we find a way to kind of fudge the life expectancy and pay it out of PIF instead of the other fund. So,
You can talk to the auditors.
See if they can capitalize.
well,
I don't want my name in there.
In looking at the PIF, I think there's a number of things in there that don't look like they qualify for 15 years. But the other is the clubs and the allocation of money to clubs. And we said, oh yeah, it used to be in the past the clubs got the leftovers, but now they get 5%. Well, that lasted all of about a year. Because if we look at this year's budget and we look at the $6.2 million in SIF expenses, 5% of that is $308,000, and we're giving the clubs $233,000, which is about a little over 3.5%. We're a shortfall of $80,000. Now, when we're talking double-digit millions, $80,000 doesn't seem like a lot. When your total budget's $220,000, $80,000 is a lot. And I kind of look at a couple other things that are just arbitrary, because the 5% is an arbitrary number, but a couple other arbitrary numbers that are in that same bucket. Golf equipment, a nice arbitrary $1 million. So, fitness center equipment that's now going to be beyond useful life. So we're going to replace the treadmills because the depreciation schedule says they're beyond useful life, $400,000 worth. So I would think we could come up with keeping the clubs funded at the 5% they're entitled to and take some money from elsewhere. So just like to ask that we kind of reconsider some of our priorities. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, do we have any questions from live stream audience? No. No questions from live stream. Are there any other questions from the floor at Sundial?
Brenda Frank, 149988. You mentioned that in 2010, the decision was made to purchase the golf equipment instead of leasing. I'm making an assumption that somebody did a cost-benefit analysis at that time. Has there been further cost-benefit analysis to see if leasing might be a better choice for us at this point, taking into account the fact that if it's leased, we may not, depending on the terms of the lease, somebody else might do the repair instead of sucking our employees' time to do that? And is that something that's looked at on a regular basis?
Is that?
Well, yeah, that's an excellent question. And so there's another side to that story that you might not realize. And the side that is not really well known is that the RCSC is not really allowed to go into debt. And the lease, depending if it's an operating or a capital lease, how the accounting goes, but the lease can be categorized as debt. And since we're not allowed there is a small amount that we could technically borrow, but to do some of these larger things like you're suggesting would probably very likely violate those constraints on debt. And that's there for a reason, because if we were to go into debt for a couple $1 million, that means somebody else has to pay that someday, and we're not really set up to try to bind some future group to a debt obligation. So our financing is basically pay as you go. That we get the money in the bank first, and then we go do things like fix a golf course or Mountain View or on and on. Because, I mean, I could see it's real easy to spend somebody else's money, you know, especially if it's somebody who's going to be here 10 years from now. It's really not too painful for me to do that, but there's a good reason to not allow that, and I think it's a pretty solid reason. And while you have an excellent point about, you know, there may be opportunities here to save something in the short run, but in the long run, it's probably not in the best interest of Sun City residents. Anyone else?
Deborah Benson, RCSC number 154065. I just had a couple questions that I was confused about. When you were going over the roofing cost, you said the lower level offices at Lakeview, aren't those under the upper level stuff?
Sounds like it.
Why would that be part of the roofing? So I was confused by that.
That's what it said on the, that's what it said on the.
Okay.
Is that a Kevin mistake? Oh.
Yeah. So that's kind of hard to expect us to pay for.
That's actually at the warehouse and at the old vintage vehicle building.
Oh, okay.
So I think the answer to that may have gotten lost for those that are live streaming. Kevin, if I understood that, that is actually for the former Vintage Vehicles building and the warehouse located at Lakeview, correct? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And this back office infrastructure upgrade of $1 million plus, what is this back office infrastructure that is so expensive, and where is this located?
It's actually software. It is software that handles card member services, accounting. I didn't do a good enough job describing that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a software spend.
Okay.
It allows the organization to do those two things: collect data. Golfers use that program as well, so it's not a room you can go to.
Well, infrastructure, I was like.
Yeah, sorry
Okay.
about that.
All right, that was what I was wondering.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other questions from the floor? Okay, thank you.
Patricia Spindle, 149586. It might not be more of a question, however, I'd like to voice how I feel. When the total will be now $680 for the assessment fee, I don't really have maybe a problem with that. When there are two people in the home, it's like $340 apiece. That's fine. A renter can come in and they're paying the same $340 all year long. I, as a widow, am paying $680, and I still don't feel that that's a fair thing. I feel like it's a penalty for being single. So that's all I wanted to say.
You mean for the privilege card?
No.
Oh.
The privilege card is $340, and homeowners that have two in a home, which that's the majority, is $340. But a single person, like myself, is paying $680. And you can't think that a single person is going to be just as happy about the privileges that they get when they're paying double for that amount. But thank you for listening.
Sure.
Thank you, Patricia.
Patricia, I'm a widow like you, and when I came here, I wasn't. And we purchased our house, and we knew we had to pay an annual assessment. Unfortunately, my husband passed away, and I still know I have to pay the annual assessment. It's just part of your facility agreement. Kind of like your property taxes. The county really doesn't care if I have a husband to help pay or not. I still have to pay the property taxes. So is it fair? I don't know. It was something that was revealed to you when you first came here. And you're unfortunately stuck with it. And so am I.
Yeah, it's a big difference. And when you're on your own.
She's talking about a
renter. I mean, I just hate to see a renter who can come in and do whatever they want to do pay so much less than what I pay.
Yeah.
But the property owner is paying the full $680.
But that's
I
not,
think the privilege card, there's something wrong with this privilege card. That's how I feel. You know, I would rather sell my home and be a renter here, and that's wrong. You should want to be a homeowner here, but not if the renter can come in and pay so much less.
she's not the only one.
Well, the renter does not have the same privileges that you do as a homeowner. I mean, they can't vote, they can't serve on committees. Or maybe you think those are not things that you want. I should have thought that one through a little better. But there are certainly privileges and benefits of home ownership that a renter does not get. And so since they don't get those privileges, they're not charged as much. Anita's analogy, though, is true. I understand that it seems unfair, and it's been tested in court, and it continues to be a source of frustration for folks in the community. But it is, her analogy of it being similar to a property tax is very accurate, that it is intended to be an assessment per property. It has nothing to do with how many people are in that home. It's just how many rooftops are there. Just like the Maricopa County, when they assess a property tax, they don't care how many people are there. They're just assessing a tax on that piece of property, and essentially that's what the RCSC is effectively doing, the same thing.
Mike, any questions from live stream? Any other questions from the floor?
Brad Schrader, 133134. Question as far as the golf page. Are you going to raise the surcharges if somebody is buying the surcharge card? That isn't listed on here.
Yes.
It is on there. The surcharge goes up $100.
Yeah, for the card, but the daily fee.
The daily fee goes to 9 off-season and 11 on-season. So those go up a little bit also.
Okay. I guess my question is, in the 2 years, you've basically doubled the surcharge rates. I understand that they were too low before, but month after month after month, you put out the managed report, rounds are down month after month after month. Are you going to have any creative way to bring these people back that you've priced out off the golf courses? Wouldn't it be better if it costs as much to maintain the golf course if you've got 15 people playing on a day or if you've got 150 people? But it sure would look at the revenue a whole lot better if you had that 150 people.
So, no, you're on the wrong side of the podium. You should be over here.
And I mean, the other alternative
Yes.
is you've got softball that you just spent a lot of money on rebuilding their field. You're going to add more pickleball courts when you redo Mountain View. You've got lawn bowling that's high maintenance, just like a golf course. Would some consideration be given to some of these other things being a pay-for-play basis, just like the golf courses are?
We've had discussions on that, and at this point, we have not decided to do that. However, I do know that Eddie Renio, the director of golf, is looking at ways to to bring more funding in for golf fees, especially from outside play. He's trying to be a lot more flexible with the ability to do that so we can bring some of those people back, because we lost a lot of revenue when we raised those rates also.
You lost an awful lot of revenue on residents. I mean, you got to
Yeah, we did.
realize, according to the last statistics out there, median income in Sun City is $52,000.
That's true.
For every person that's above that can afford to pay increases every year, there's 4 people below that can't afford, and you can't keep losing those people.
That's true, but on the other hand, if you look at the other golf courses in the area, our rates for the surcharge and for the no fee are well below what other courses are charging too.
As they should be, because golf was designed to be an amenity, just like all the clubs and all the other activities. You can't keep pricing the residents off.
And we're trying our best to not do that. That's why we delayed the increase in the golf passes from October 1st to January, so that October 1st didn't actually happen this year. So we're trying our best to do that, but it's a tough thing to do.
You mentioned that it would be better if we had more golfers. Well, if we have more golfers, we also have more wear and tear, which increases expenses. Yeah. The other thing, our water bill is going to be our water bill, whether there's 5 golfers out there or 500, we're still going to have to pay that water bill.
Yeah.
But you'd get a whole lot more revenue if you get the 150 out there than what you've driven it down to at this point.
We'd also have more maintenance.
Yeah.
Well,
There's a line. We have to balance it, and we're trying to find that balance.
It's not working right at the moment.
well, I think that's why we're looking at other types of ways to get people at the golf course. Maybe they're not there to play golf. They're there because there are events being held at the golf course property. And they buy food, they buy drinks, they buy sandwiches. There'll be things like demo days and other events where you just are trying to bring people into the golf course so they see the amenity that you have and hopefully leave a few dollars behind. The other side of that is we shot ourselves a little bit in the foot with tournament play the argument that was made by a lot of members was the tournaments were taking up too many tee times, and so they would rather cut the tournament play in order to preserve those tee times. Well, okay, but that cost us a lot of revenue that was not being made up by the tee times because they weren't really getting filled anyway. So we're really looking back at the idea of expanding the tournament play again, because quite honestly, there are some opportunities there to make serious money. And we have a outstanding golf course at the South facility to hold tournaments. Parking facility, the kitchen facility, the pavilion that's there, the number of golf carts that are there, just the actual size of the property to hold players and galleries and so on and so forth. It's an excellent opportunity to make money, which we had done in the past, and then we turned our back on it. And I think it's time that we go, I'm sorry if you lost your Sunday morning tee time, but I'm going to make 50 times what your tee time would have been if I hold a tournament there. And so I think we have to seriously say, I'm sorry, I have to do other things to increase golf revenue. And those are the things that we're looking at.
Well, you definitely have to come up with something besides keep raising the rates on the residents every year.
Do we have a live stream question?
No, but I have a comment if I'm allowed to make one.
Oh, all right.
I just want to be clear. Golf is very unfavorable to budget, but we are actually we've increased revenue year over year. So although the pricing has been a little aggressive, we're not losing revenue. We've actually gained revenue. We just not to what we had budgeted in the 2025 budget. Thank you.
Any other questions from the floor? And no questions from live stream?
Nope.
All right. Well, thank you all for attending, and I guess I will adjourn the meeting for this evening. Thank you very much for coming and participating.
Thank you all.
This is a copyrighted production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our recreation center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.